What's happening, everybody? It's me, Crazy Frankie, and I'd like to welcome you to my Week 13 key game picks. We are down to the final 4 weeks of the regular season. And, of course, down the stretch, we're going to be talking about the playoff picture. Why don't we talk about that for a little bit? AFC, current standings right now at the moment. The Patriots still the 1 seed. That has not changed. The Broncos the 2nd seed. The Bengals are moved up to the 3rd seed, and the Colts are the 4th seed. The 5th seed currently belongs at the moment to the Chiefs, and the 6th seed, believe it or not, is the San Diego Chargers. They moved up to the 6th seed. But 3 teams for that last playoff spot, the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Browns, they're the only top 3 teams that are vying for that last playoff spot in terms of right now currently still owned by the Chargers. Gonna be a little bit interesting down the stretch, but that's what the current playoff standings are at the moment in terms of the AFC conference. Now, in the NFC, Cardinals still the 1 seed. Green Bay, in terms of their victory last week and the Lions losing, they now control the NFC North division, and they have now moved up to the 2nd seed. The Eagles has dropped down to the 3rd seed. And the Atlanta Falcons, despite only 4 wins in that terrible NFC South division, are the 4th seed. The Cowboys are currently the 5th seed. And the Seahawks now have moved into the 6th seed, which currently right now there's only 2 teams that are still vying for that last playoff spot. The Lions and the 49ers are the only 2 top teams right now that are vying for that last spot, as the rest of the other teams in the conference are below 500. Anyways, thoughts from week number 12. Well, I think there's a lot of things to talk about in week number 12. What happened in week 12? I think there's a couple of things. I want to get this out of the way and get rid of all this nonsense here. Well, what do you know? The Oakland Raiders finally won a game. They beat the Chiefs, and that win was significant because with the Chargers barely beating the Rams on Sunday, that's why they moved into that last playoff spot. So it's gonna be quite interesting. I mean, as a Chargers fan, I can only say to the Raiders, thanks. But people who know me on a personal level know I have a distaste and hatred for the Oakland Raiders. But kudos to them; they got their first win, even though I was hoping for them to go 0-16. But more than likely, they'll probably go to 1-15 or 2-14 or maybe 3-13. And I predicted them to be, before the season started, I think I predicted them to go 3-13 because I knew they were a terrible team to begin with, even with a rookie quarterback. But anyways, I think that what a lot of people in social media, anybody who saw the Sunday night game, what else everybody was talking about? Odell Beckham's catch. One-handed grab. I have to admit, that is one of the most astonishing catches you'll ever see in the NFL, but I still think David Tyree's catch was better because it was over the helmet, and that had more significance because it was the Super Bowl. But hey, give Beckham some credit. Odell Beckham made a great catch with his hands. This guy's really a gifted receiver, I have to admit. They kept showing a lot of his LSU catches when he was in college, and wow, this guy really is that gifted in terms of catching the ball. But not to put too much praise though, because the Giants didn't beat the Cowboys in that game, so that kind of was a downer. That probably was the only highlight the Giants had all game long because they lost to them. But really, right now, if you're a Giants fan right now, that's got to really be helpful. Once Victor Cruz gets healthy, that could be a dangerous tandem right there. A good wide receiver duo for Eli Manning next season, assuming they can get their offensive line fixed next season. This Giants team could be on the rise next year. But until then, the Giants really are not a good team this year. So kudos to Odell Beckham in that catch, though. So Giants fans, I think you have something to look forward to next season. Let's see. In terms of teams that are currently still dominant right now in the NFL, it's now down to 2 teams right now. It is the Patriots and the Packers. No question about it. You would say, well, why aren't you throwing Arizona in there? Well, look, as I said last week, I knew there was going to be some trouble for the Cardinals in Seattle, because remember what I said in my last video, that the Cardinals really don't have much of a running game, and that's what killed them last week in that loss to Seattle. I knew, well, look, Seattle's win wasn't really all that impressive because the only one was the 19. They only scored 19 points on Arizona, so it really wasn't that much of a. I mean, if it really was impressive, it should have been a blowout, but it wasn't. But New England and Green Bay, no question right now, the two best teams in the NFL so far. New England continues their dominance as they seriously beat up on the Lions last Sunday, and Green Bay barely squeaking out a victory in Minnesota, which was that was really surprising. But in all that, and speaking of those two teams, the matchup, those two teams face each other on Sunday, and believe it or not, it's going to be one of my key game picks. I will get into that in just a moment. Let's see. Does anybody want to win the NFC South? The Falcons and the Saints, everybody in that terrible division is below 500. Despite look, going to the Cleveland-Atlanta game, Mike Smith's clock management was terrible in the end. I don't know how in the hell Cleveland won that game. It was beyond me. Atlanta had that game in the bag, but I think what happened was they left too much time for the Browns to make that quick field goal attempt, and it ended up killing them in the end. If somehow Atlanta wins this division, whoever faces Atlanta in the first round, it'll be a quick playoff game, because really this Atlanta team is a joke this year. This was a team that was in the NFC Championship 2 years ago, and this year, in the last two seasons, including this one, they've been terrible. And yet New Orleans, with their loss to Baltimore, they're still in it. And yet Carolina's still in it as well. No one's been proven fact. One of these two teams is going to host a playoff game. They're going to host a home playoff game, which I really think in all hindsight it's not fair. The wildcard team that has a better record than the team who won the division, they're the ones that should have the right to the home game and not the other. But hey, the rules are rules, and what is based on the NFL, it's just the way it is, and I just think that's kind of sad. Let's see, other thoughts. Well, the Broncos got back on track, but yet they barely squeaked out a victory against Miami. That just tells you right now that Denver really, really has some flaws. And I think the injuries are catching up to this team. But I think with Peyton Manning's will and all that, I think that's what keeps the Broncos going. And no question, the Patriots and the Broncos are vying for home field advantage, and either of these two teams will be the 1 and 2 seed. There's going to be no question about it. But it's going to be interesting down the stretch. Now remember, Denver has a huge game coming up against Kansas City, and believe it or not, that's going to be another one of my key game picks that I will get into right now. In terms of so many thoughts, I can't get into so many because I need to get to my key game picks videos. And before I start on that, of course, this is my Thanksgiving edition. Before I get into my picks, I want to quickly say to everybody, I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving, and hopefully you get to spend time with your family or friends or whoever you're with, and hopefully you have a great holiday. Anyways, enough chit chat. Let's get into my Thanksgiving edition of my 4 key game picks for Week 13. And speaking of Thanksgiving, a couple of Thanksgiving games are going to be on my key games. And here's one of them. Key game number 1, the Eagles at the Cowboys. Cowboys 3-point favorite in this one. And why not? And why not did it be in the 3-point favorite? I mean, coming off a big win over the Giants, I mean, that really is beneficial for them. They really needed that win because they need to set this up now for a big showdown with Philadelphia. Now, Philadelphia finally got back on track, beating the crap out of the Titans. So no question about it. It's all going to come down to who plays the best in this game. And what a way to set up a Thanksgiving. This game could be. I really don't think this game's going to be a blowout. No way. There's going to be a certainty that this game will be close. It definitely will be a very close game. I expect it to be close all the way. But in terms of who wins this game and all, it's really a tough one. This is really a tough one because Philadelphia's still playing pretty well, even though they have Mark Sanchez at quarterback. They don't have no Nick Foles till probably the end of the season. And he's not. Remember, Nick Foles is not out for the season. He's only going to be out for about a month. So So there's a chance he could come back towards week 16 or 17 in terms of it has to come down to a showdown between them and the Cowboys. And for who wins that division in the NFC East. But for this game right here, the game, of course, like every Thanksgiving, this game is in Dallas. So who's going to win this game? The Cowboys. I'm picking the Cowboys here. Their running game is a tad better than Philly's running game. Philly's running game is a question right now. Where's LaShawn McCoy? I haven't seen much of him. I mean, he did run well last week, but Philly's running game really needs to come up really big in this one if they're gonna beat the Cowboys here. As much as I'm gonna be cheering for Philadelphia in this game and all that, but I can't be biased in this video and all that. I just think the Cowboys are gonna win this game. The Cowboys have a running game, but of course, if Philly wants to win, they got to get to Tony Romo, and let's see how well Dallas' offensive line can stop Philly's pass rush. But I just think with the Cowboys running game with Murray, I think it's just going to be it might be a little bit too much for the Eagles to handle in this one. But no question, it's going to be a close game all the way. But I just think the Cowboys pretty much will have this game in hand. They'll probably win by a touchdown. Their running game is pretty much the reason I'm picking them in this game. So I'm going to say the Cowboys. Cowboys over the Eagles. Key game number 2. Another Thanksgiving one. Of course, Seahawks at the 49ers. Only one of these two teams will be in second place by the end of this game. And it's going to come down to it. Now, looking at the remainder of the schedule for the Cardinals, the Seahawks, and the 49ers, all three teams have tough schedules ahead. And currently right now Arizona still has the advantage in that division, but the Seahawks are not that far behind. Now, the Seahawks win, like I said, Seahawks and 49ers wins weren't that impressive, but I think the 49ers was worse because you only win by 4 points. You beat the Redskins 17-13. That's really not all that impressive, even though you did get the win. But their offense is really, really struggling here. And that is not good, and you have to face a very, very strong Seattle defense. Well, I really shouldn't say strong. Most of their defense most of Seattle's defense struggled. Pardon me for that. But Seattle's defense is still pretty darn good. And Seattle's running game and San Francisco's running game, like I said, they're pretty much evenly matched here. But in terms of quarterback, Russell Wilson is playing much better than Colin Kaepernick is. So that's where the advantage goes to Seattle in terms of it's really at the quarterback position. Running game, both these teams have an equal running game, so really there's no doubt that's evenly matched right there. Same thing with wide receivers. They're evenly matched, but really in terms of what advantage do one of these two teams have, it's really a quarterback. Russell Wilson is a bit better than Colin Kaepernick. He's playing like it right now. They are, of course, what do you expect? They're the defending Super Bowl champions, and they're playing. They're finally getting back to form, and their defense is getting healthy now. We expect some more key players to come back probably in this game. So I'm pretty sure you're probably all going to know who's going to win this game. I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks here. With the 49ers offense struggling, even though the 49ers defense is still coming up, is still a good factor right now. But if their offense can't get it together and all that, I think Seattle's going to win this game. There's no question. These two teams now, it's become a huge rivalry in that division, and it's going to get fierce. No question about it. It's going to be smash mouth all the way. It's going to be a close game, but I think Seattle walks into San Francisco the victory here. I think it's because of Russell Wilson. He's playing very well. He's running the ball well. He's throwing a lot of good passes. I just think he's playing much better than Kaepernick is. So I'm definitely going to pick the Seahawks over the 49ers. Key game number 3. The Patriots at the Packers. Packers are a 3-point favorite in this one. And this game is in Green Bay. And I think that's where the advantage is going to come in here. Now, New England is on a roll. They really haven't lost a game since that disastrous game in Kansas City. But yet, since that game, the Patriots really are on a roll. They're really tearing it up offensively, and they're scoring a lot of points. And they've really been embarrassing opponents. But now this is the real test for the Patriots. You go into Lambeau Field, which is one of the best home field advantages in the NFL from any football team. And the Packers are currently playing at a very, very good level. Aaron Rodgers is playing very well. Green Bay's defense is playing very well. Lacey's running the ball very well. These two teams are evenly matched here. the way both teams have been playing, and no question right now, as these are the top two teams in the NFL right now. It's really a tough pick to say who wins this game, because who's to say that New England can go into Green Bay and upset them? It's a possibility. But will this be a close game? Oh, yes. I expect this game to go back and forth. Defenses right now, I mean, they're going to struggle to stop these offenses here from both teams. So, like I said, offense is going to be big in this game. No question about it. And I expect this game to be close. But who wins this game? I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers. Like I said, it's all about home field advantage here. If this game was in Foxborough, I would pick the Patriots in that one. But this one is in Green Bay. Green Bay has not lost a home game all year. And it's going to be very, very tough for New England to handle Lambeau Field. And the way the Packers play at home, it's really going to come down to who controls the ball and who can score and who's going to have the ball in the final minutes and score. But no question, this will be a back and forth affair between these two teams. But I think Green Bay is just a tad better they're much better at home. Like I said before, if this game was in Foxborough, I would pick the Patriots, but because this game is in Lambeau Field, home field advantage matters in this game. I'm going to go with the Packers here. Packers over the Patriots. And key game number 4, a big one in the AFC West, the Broncos at the Chiefs. Denver's already beaten them earlier in the season. And it was not even but it was only by a touchdown though. See, now this is going to be huge now. Now you go into Kansas City. Now remember, Kansas City is one of the loudest outdoor stadiums next to Seattle's CenturyLink Field. So now what does that that so far banged up offense and defense that the Broncos have conceded that they can go into Kansas City. Now, the odds makers have the Broncos as a 1.5 point favorite. But can the will of Peyton Manning and that entire team be enough to beat Kansas City? They're still on a roll. They haven't. Look, I know last week because remember, Oakland beat Kansas City last week, and it's by looks of it, Kansas City wasn't really prepared for that game. I mean, they were flat the entire game against Oakland, and it ended up costing them. But there's no question, with more time on their hands for Kansas City, they're going to be much prepared for this one. And if you're a Broncos fan right now and the way Denver's playing, I would worry. I would worry the way the Broncos are playing. Now remember, they're trying to vie for home field advantage because they need home field advantage if they're going to get back to the Super Bowl. Because knowing full well you have your AFC Championship, it is going to be the same two teams like last year. The way it's looking at it right now, it might be Denver against New England again. But right now, the Broncos need to focus more on this game here. No question, this game will be a tight one all the way. But I just think with the Broncos' offense, they did get back. Their offense did get back on track, but they had a handful of trouble against the Dolphins last week. And like I said, both teams right now, who's going to have the edge? I mean, this is right now. Virtual for first place right now, because if Kansas City beats Denver, they go into first place, even though both teams will have the same record. And like I said, Denver and Kansas City needs to look out for San Diego. They're starting to play. Like I said, they're still going to become a factor, even though San Diego has a much tougher schedule than Denver and Kansas City does. But going back to this game here, no question. Like I said, I just think with Kansas City's running game, I think it's going to be just a bit enough to beat Denver. They might beat Denver in this one here, because I think their running game is just a tad better than Kansas City's running game is better than Denver's. But passing, no question, passing belongs to the Broncos and Peyton Manning. No question, this game is a huge toss-up here. But who wins this game? Ooh, it's a tough one. I'm gonna gamble on this pick here. I'm gonna go with the Kansas City Chiefs. This game, home field does matter. Like Denver had trouble in Seattle, and who's to say they're gonna have trouble again in Kansas City? Now Kansas City is going to be much more prepared for this one. Kansas City only lost by a touchdown last time these two teams met, but that was in Denver though. But I just think with Kansas City's run game, but Alex Smith really needs to prove it. He needs to prove himself in this game if they're going to want a chance, because really, the advantage that Kansas City has is really their running game. Passing-wise, it belongs to Denver. So no question these two teams are evenly matched here for this one. But but it wouldn't be surprising if Kansas City pulls the upset here. I think Kansas City will barely win, probably by a field goal. So I'm going to pick the Chiefs over the Broncos as one of my upset picks for week number 13. Well, that's it, everybody. For the rest of my week 13 picks, go to the sportblog.blogspot.com for all of my week 13 picks. Everybody have a great Thanksgiving holiday weekend. Enjoy the football, and I will see you all next week when I talk about my picks for week number 14. Until then, take care.